Vaccines are getting a bad rap.
The autism rate has gone from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 35. What we are finding that Kennedy has brought to light, but with a public voice, is there have never been any safety studies done on vaccine.
Wow.
It's just not true. They made it up. There's no proven safety. On one hand, you can say, 60 micrograms of mercury inside a newborn baby is too much. And this first round of shots they get at 3 months has 800.
Wow.
Well, that doesn't make sense, right? So you just have all of this blind trust because surely the medical industry, who makes a lot of money off of us being sick, would not want to harm us.
Being anti-vax has gone mainstream thanks to RFK and people like Dr. Robin, who have been forerunning for us for years. Vaccines are getting a bad rap. So Dr. Robin, will you just tell us a little bit about why we should all be anti-vax?
Sure, and I'll go back to my story. In 1993, my oldest daughter was born. I had her at a birthing center with a midwife. I didn't have insurance. That was really my only reason. And fast forward, my midwife gave me a book called A Shot in the Dark. Now, I don't remember anything about that book except that there was a statistic in the book that 80% of babies who had died of SIDS had had a DTP, which is now DTAP shot within 48 hours of death.
Wow.
And I just remember reading that, and I said, if this is true, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus are all treatable. Death is not. And it was just a black and white decision for me to not vaccinate. I was already in the naturopathic field of God gave us our immune system.
Yes.
It's by design. When we were not designed to have things injected into our body to build immunity. Okay?
So true.
So that started my journey. There was no internet back then. Everything was in hard copy. I had to go research little by little. But I had that one fact that I, stood on. Lots of more books came out. I met other people who had lost babies to SIDS. One of my friend's child had become deaf from a DTaP shot. So I learned, data over the years. And then just over the years and as the internet came out, I did more and more research. And my original process was what was our design? Our design was to build our immunity through our mouth, right? Through the digestive processes, the food, the way God created us. Now we live in a very toxic, fallen world. I began to research alternative narratives to polio, to the Spanish flu, to smallpox. They gave me a different story than what the traditional story had been about those diseases being eradicated with vaccines.
Yeah.
And so everything became questionable for me. Where did this narrative come from? I learned that in the early 1900s, or in the late 1800s, the AMA was formed, and it was like a union at the time, and they were losing doctors, and they decided we've got to get rid of natural medicine and to make a living as a doctor.
Okay.
And so medical schools were shrinking and dwindling because more people were going alternative, and you didn't need an MD to do that.
Yeah.
So the Rockefellers basically created these massive endowments to where medical schools would get these huge endowments if they taught a certain curriculum, which was throwing out all of the alternative or natural medicine. This is all history you can research.
Yeah. We always have to follow the money trail.
Yeah, follow the money. And this is absolutely easy to go find research on.
Okay.
It's not really speculative. You can find this. Okay.
Sure.
So, of course, Big Pharma steps in, makes billions of dollars off of drugs. And so we create a disease model of treating symptoms with medication versus finding root cause and natural remedies.
Sure.
Right? So then the pendulum swings really far over to allopathic. It's the new medicine. We're going to fix everything. Magic pill, magic pill. And then as disease progresses, they are going to give you more and more drugs because they're making more and more money. They've now brainwashed the whole population of the United States, not the whole world, but definitely the United States. We use 2/3 of the world's pharmaceuticals here. And to think I can live any way I want and then just take a magic pill if I get sick. Well, that stops working after a while.
Wow.
And so people start swinging back the other way. So what do? Well, we've got to come up with new ways to keep people sick.
Sure.
So that we can still continue our money trail.
Thus vaccines.
And vaccines is one of those, yeah. And so there are Stanley Plotkin before Congressional Committee. If you can find these videos, he admitted that the polio vaccine was made from monkey viruses and it caused cancer. He admitted that they experimented on human beings and a lot of them died. Some of the whistleblowers who are information is now coming forward with this autism stuff, some of those studies were done in like 98, 99, 2000, and they were told to shred the evidence.
Well, you mentioned autism. So
Yes.
can you talk briefly about the vaccine
Sure.
autism connection?
Okay, so think about what happens when you have a wire that's not coated and you touch another wire. You get electrical sparks.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens with the particular shot they were looking at was the MMR at the time, and I think the DTaP too, but when we're putting heavy metals in the brain and toxins in the brain, and the neurotoxins in the brain essentially disrupt what's called the myelinization of neural pathways. So myelinization is a fatty coating.
It's like a sheath, right?
It's a sheath, yeah, that goes over your nerve endings
Yes.
to protect them so
Yeah.
they're not sparking.
Yes.
So if you take a bunch of wires in the brain and you peel the rubber back,
Right.
and they're all touching each other, and you've got metals in the brain, you're creating
Whoa.
this constant short circuiting going on in the brain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with this massive epidemic of methylation issues, which is the inability to detox, our bodies were beautifully designed to detox. 2/3 of our organs are detoxing organs. But we weren't supposed to have toxins injected directly into our brain.
Right.
Okay. And so with all the things with EMFs and all these toxins, things are in the brain more so than ever. The autism rate has gone from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 35.
Wow.
And the two main factors we've seen exponential growth is the amount of vaccines, chemtrails, or the amount of aluminum that's being sprayed on the world, or three things, and then electromagnetic radiation.
Okay.
So you've kind of got this trifecta that puts the body in a state where the brain is not able to develop the way it was designed. And then other things, cancer. One of the other things they can't control when they curate vaccines is where they very often would source this from, like animal livers or mice livers or whatever. Well, we don't know what viruses or bacteria. They don't see them. So you're literally injecting retroviruses that are foreign to the human body inside a body with vaccines, and 20 years later, they get cancer. They're not going to correlate it to the vaccine or where it came from. But evidentiary, they have proven this years ago, that they got caught. So there's a trail of tracing AIDS back to what was in vaccines, viruses and vaccines. And there may be other causes of AIDS too, but a lot of this has been buried. I know one of the things that came out during COVID with Judy Mikovits was she was under a gag order for 5 years. She worked inside the vaccine industry with Fauci, and she tried to whistleblow, and she basically got threatened. And after a period of time, she's allowed to come forward. So all these documentaries now, Vaxxed, Plague of Corruption is her documentary. There's a part 2 that just came out. There are massive amounts of documentaries coming out there that are very well done, and people need to watch these. These are science-driven. And what we are finding that Kennedy has brought to light, but with a public voice, is there have never been any safety studies done on vaccine.
Wow.
It's just not true. They made it up. There's no proven safety. On one hand, you can say, 60 micrograms of mercury inside a newborn baby is too much. And this first round of shots they get at 3 months has 800.
Wow.
Well, that doesn't make sense, right? So you just have all of this blind trust because surely the medical industry, who makes a lot of money off of us being sick, would not want to harm us.
Right.
And I'm not blaming doctors. If you ask most doctors, what are the adjuvants in the shot and what do?
They don't even know the answer. Yeah.
The answer.
Yeah.
One of the things Kennedy just did too was removing any incentives that doctors got millions of dollars of incentives to get all of their patients vaccinated.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of
as
pressure.
a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a parent too.
Yeah.
Parents, doctors. And so, they went to medical school, they spent all this money, they got kind of brainwashed to believe that we know better, we're the scientists, we're the smartest people in the room. And this is what you do, and this is what we need to do. And then you see the statistics of, measles. And I'm like, you know what? If you had measles, you were less likely to get cancer, and you can cure measles with vitamin A. And so the body was designed to fight measles. Build your own immune system by fighting. It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Nobody wants measles, but the immunity you build by fighting off measles will keep you healthier later in life.
That's so good.
And we just don't think that way. We're programmed to believe differently. So.
Yeah. So as we close today, Dr. Robin, what would you tell new parents who are getting pressure from their pediatrician, who are considering vaccinations? How can we help persuade them that there are other options?
Yeah. Well, if you want to email me, I can send you about 500 documents to persuade you. The nice thing is the millennials and the Gen Zs have woken up, and they're a lot crunchier than my generation was.
Come on.
So a lot of the peer pressure is we're not going to vaccinate.
Yes.
The other thing is it's just too much. I think I had 7, and now the schedule is 72, and it's growing.
Yeah.
A brand new baby doesn't need a Hep V vaccination.
Right.
I believe peanut allergies came from the vitamin K because it's curated in peanut oil.
Wow.
So all of these things have reasons as to why our children are so sick, and we haven't thought about it. So just educate, look at the resources, but step back and think, who told me that vaccinating was being responsible? Most of these diseases aren't even around anymore, at least not in the U.S. And so why are we potentially harming our children for something that, one, that is treatable, and two, can be most of them remedied by your own body's immune system or by, natural supplements or natural remedies? Why would we take a risk of harm? So really it's just think critically and think for yourself and look at all sides of the equation from all sources. And alternative medicine practitioners are not quacks. Mm-hmm. Most of them have to be smarter and more educated than MDs,
right?
Because we don't get automatic credibility.
So good. That's so good. If you want to know more about this, follow Radiant Wellness. And we're so glad you joined us today.